This is the Code of Federal Regulations involving independent educational evaluations. It's found at 34 CFR, that is the Code of Federal Regulations, section 300.502. The yellow sections of this document are things that we covered in the simplified overview of independent educational evaluations. The blue sections are sections that we didn't cover there, so I'll go through the yellow fairly quickly and spend a little bit of time on the blue sections so that you can see what you missed in the overview. The parents of a child have the right to an independent evaluation. Each public agency must provide information about where an independent educational evaluation may be obtained and the agency criteria. Moving down the page, section 3 gives us a couple definitions, a definition of an independent educational evaluation and what public expense means. So if you want to take a look at those, you can. The parent has a right to an independent educational evaluation. This is one of the due process protections, and it needs to happen without unnecessary delay. Either one of two things must happen. If the school district decides they want to keep their own evaluation and don't want to pay for an independent educational evaluation, then they file a due process complaint to request a hearing, or they ensure that an independent educational evaluation is provided at public expense. The key here is without unnecessary delay. Section 3 explains that if a public agency does file for due process complaint and wins the final decision, then the parent is not entitled to a free independent educational evaluation, but they can still obtain an educational evaluation, an independent one, at their own expense, but not at public expense. The school may ask the parent why they disagree with the evaluation, and I think it's important to tell the school because they may be able to explain the confusion that you may have with an evaluation, or they may be able to explain why they came to the conclusion that your child doesn't qualify that they did come to. So it's important to talk to them, but it's not necessary that you give a reason why. And at any rate, the discussion must not unreasonably delay the provision of an IEE. Section 5 says a parent's entitled to only one independent educational evaluation, but this is each time the agency conducts an evaluation. So let's say you get an evaluation you don't agree with, and then 3 years later you get another evaluation you don't agree with. You can ask for an independent educational evaluation on both of those. You just can't ask for more than one independent education evaluation on one evaluation by the school, and that's at public expense. So if you got one at public expense and you wanted to do another one at your own expense, you could. Once an independent educational evaluation is obtained, either by public expense or at the private expense of the parents, either one of those must be considered by the public agency. They must be taken into consideration and taken a serious look at in order to determine whether the child is eligible or not. They just can't be ignored. So there's lots of case law out there. You might want to take a look at some of it on what is considered a consideration of an IEE. Either party may present as evidence at the due process hearing an independent educational evaluation. Also, if you go to hearing and the hearing officer requests an independent educational evaluation, which he can do, he has authority to do that. If he requests one, then it must be at public expense also. IEE has to meet certain criteria, and that's the standard criteria for the school district, which is a positive thing because then you have two evaluations with the same criteria, which is really good evidence if you ever go to a hearing to try to get your child qualified for services. Then you can say they use the same criteria in the independent educational evaluation as the school did in their evaluation, therefore they should carry equal weight. Even though the school just has to consider them, you can make an argument in a hearing that the weight is the same. The only caveat to that is, or the only addition there is that the criteria cannot limit the timeliness of getting an independent educational evaluation. That is the rules and regulations on independent evaluations. If you have further questions, you can contact Legal Aid of Nebraska or other people listed in the contacts department for advocacy, or contact the State Department of Education.